Wow, my video yesterday generated quite a few questions and comments, and so today I thought it'd be a good idea just to address them. There are a lot of comments that I think need clarified, and so I thought the best way to do it is to make a video. Hey everybody, David Burns, thanks for joining me today. Let's jump right into it. Made a video yesterday about whether you should choose a package or a nucleus when you're starting out or when you're trying to shore up your apiary with some more bees. Maybe you had some die outs and maybe you're thinking about getting some packages or nuke or something to help increase your numbers, grow your apiary. A lot of comments were left, and I think it's better to address these comments because sometimes people can be a little misled if they don't hear the full story just by looking at a comment. So I thought I'd clarify some of the things, to give you my opinion about some of the comments that were left. So here we go. Let's jump right into it. Someone left a comment that says here, the package is $160 and the nuke is $250. That was last year's price. So yeah, like I mentioned, it's going to be all over the board in pricing. And like I mentioned in my video, if you haven't watched it, I'll leave a link in the description to yesterday's video. But it's all over the board. It's just whatever anyone wants to charge, really. And so most people kind of stick to a yearly normal price range. But at the same time, I do feel those that are putting a lot of time into making their nukes up, they really should charge a lot more than a package. Because as I mentioned yesterday, a package is only 10,000 bees and a mated queen in a plastic or a wooden cage. That's all you get. You don't get any frames, you get no brood or anything. So if you're going to buy a nuke and you're getting the heart of a hive, that should be worth a lot more money because you've got 5 frames. What are frames today? If you buy 5 frames, they're anywhere from $3 to $5 a frame, not drawn out. So the beekeepers put a lot of energy into that to get those nukes made up for you. So they're just going to be more expensive, I think. Here's a comment that says, I think all YouTube beekeepers should encourage new beekeepers to buy a nuke over a package. And I have heard this a lot. I've heard a lot of people take that position. They feel like they're starting with bees that are already going. You know, you don't have to try to get the queen introduced like you do a package. And I would say for me, I probably fall about 51% says, yeah, I think I would want to encourage somebody to go with a nuke. And 49% says packages would be fine. Here's the thing. If everybody that made up nucleuses, that was our only source to provide bees for all the new beginners and all the people that are replacing bees, I just don't think we would even touch the demand that we have for bees. So packages are essential because there are a lot of people, like I said yesterday in my video, they just don't have access to anyone that's selling a nucleus. They live in a place where they're not around beekeepers. They can't ship nucleuses to them. And so they have no choice but to buy a package. So as I mentioned yesterday, I think if you have a choice, it's great to go pick the bees up. And I'm almost 50-50 on whether a package or a nuke is the best way to start. Like I said, you're probably going to have less risk in buying a nucleus because your bees are not going to abscond. The queen's already out and laying. You can judge how well she's doing. The next comment says, before I watch this, I want to say I did this experiment a couple of years ago and I find the nuke to be superior to the package. Now let's see if David says I'm wrong or right. Here's the thing about that. There's really no way to actually do a one-on-one study if you just have one package and one nucleus. I think that just tells you in your situation right there which one was better. However, there could be other things that were involved in that. You know, there could have been a better queen in the package, or I guess in your case, the nuke had a better queen in it than the package did, whatever. To do a proper study, we do need to have a lot of bees to compare that to. We need to have at least probably 30 hives that are nukes, that start from nukes, 30 hives that start with packages, and then give it the whole year, treat them all equally the same, under the same circumstances, keep them all going the same, and then we can have a more fair evaluation. So even I don't want to say which one would do better. I really don't know. In my own anecdotal study that I've done, kind of backyard experiments, It's a coin toss. Sometimes packages do a lot better. Sometimes the nukes do a lot better. I hope I can find and get you to sign my hat at the expo. Appreciate your videos. Well, I'm looking forward to the Honeybee Expo coming up in just 7 days. It's like the countdown. I'll be speaking at the expo on Saturday morning at 9:30. A lot of you have been asking me that, what day I'm speaking. Saturday, 9:30 a.m. And here is where I'll be. So be sure and stop in and listen to my talk. I'm really getting fired up about it. So yeah, 7 days away, man, we are close. And of course I'll sign your hat for you. Another comment says, nukes put you ahead of the game, but they cost more as well. I have a question for you, David. When you use green drone comb frames and freeze them, how do you reuse them? Do you scrape everything off and let them start over, or put the comb with the dead brood and all back in the frame, back in the hive, and let them clean it up? That's a good question. I've done both. I don't want to scrape off the green drone comb. Green drone comb, hang on, I got one here. Green drone comb are for mite control. That way you can capture the mite in these cells of developing drone brood and freeze it and kill the mites. And so I have done both. I've actually put it right back in the hive frozen, and they do fine. On a hot summer day, it thaws out quickly in the hive, and they just take out the dead drones with the mites on them. But I don't like to scrape it. I feel like the bees went to a lot of trouble just to build that comb, and I'm not going to scrape it down or off. It's a lot less energy required of the bees if they're just going to open those caps up and carry out the drones. Otherwise, they're going to have to make a lot of wax to rebuild the comb on that green drone comb. Well, here's a nice comment. Thank you very much. Excellent presentation, one of your best. I worked hard on that video, and I appreciate you noticing how much time I put into it. Thanks a lot. Another comment says, I don't do either package or nucleus. Only bee I have ever bought was one queen. Get my bees from cutout, swarm traps, splits, shaking swarms. I want to talk about that. And to be honest with you, that comment there was one of my main motivations for wanting to make this video. Because my first hive that I started with was a cutout as well. And I was a brand new beekeeper. I had no experience, no knowledge. I mean, I knew nothing. I knew more about ants than I did about bees when I started. But when I started with a cutout, it was brutal. I really do say just torture. That was way back in the early to mid 90s, I think. And so when I was first started out, I didn't have any kind of like mentors or coaches or classes. The internet wasn't around yet. So it was really hard for me to get much foothold on foundational beekeeping. Didn't know what I was doing, in other words. And so that was a very bad way to start beekeeping for me. I would never advise anyone to start beekeeping with no knowledge at all by cutting out a hive, a colony from a house or a tree or something. It's just a rough way to start. It really is. It's much better to start kind of ease into it with a package or a nucleus. But on the other hand, I do see the benefits if you have skills already, if you already know about bees a lot and you're handy with saws and cutting trees down and opening up houses. In the future, if after you've started beekeeping, if you want to keep adding to your apiary more bees, then certainly that's something you can pursue. But just let me warn you, because coming from somebody that has done this for years, I took bees out of trees and homes and houses and businesses for years with an excellent construction partner. He just did excellent work and was amazing. He would open up, I'd remove the bees, he would repair the house or the building or the construction, whatever. And I'll tell you this though, after doing that for so many years, there's a lot of risk to it. I know that when you first get into it, it seems pretty simple. You're a beekeeper, you go tear somebody's house open, you take the bees and drive off. But the liability is tremendous, it really is. You cut through a plumbing pipe, you cut through an electric wire, your smoker puts a spark out in the wall or something and burn their house down. You really, in all wisdom and prudence, you really need to have a good insurance policy before you do that kind of work. Just be safe about it. Now, going and fetching a swarm, yeah, that's a great way to start keeping bees. On the other hand, you have to know a lot about swarm catching. How do you catch a swarm? Is the queen, how do you evaluate if the queen's still there? And if you're a brand new beekeeper, you may not know that if you do a cutout. You may not know if you have the queen. You may not know if you catch the swarm, if the queen was shaken off that branch. That's why it's a lot better, I think, for new beginners to start with a package or a nucleus. You were saying that with nucleus, the queen is already accepted. You don't have to worry about anything. That depends a lot. Of commercial queens are inferior. You might have to worry. You know, commercial queens, I'm not sure what you mean by a commercial queen, most of us that raise queens are raising queens the way a person would raise them in a small scale operation as well. And so I'm not sure if there's a huge difference. I know that we oftentimes want to say that. We want to assume that. We want to say bees produced in mass numbers or queens produced in commercial operations, big operations are inferior. And again, it could be. But I think what we would need to do is, again, take 30 queens from commercial production, 30 queens that we might raise, and then run them for a whole year and compare the queens and see which ones did better. Because look, all of these things where we think a nuke is better than a package, or a personally raised and groomed queen might be better than a commercially raised queen, all of these facts depend on really how we care for our bees. It depends on our management skills. Because if you take a great queen and you manage the hive very poorly, the hive will do poorly. If you take a, kind of a poor queen and you manage the hive superbly with feeding them, keeping mite levels down, hey, it's going to outdo the good queen managed poorly. So it really does depend a lot on us. Now, someone responded by saying, left a comment to that comment saying, if you're starting out with a package, I'd recommend seeing if you can purchase a frame of drawn comb from your supplier or a friend. Once you're established, drawn comb is gold. Now, that's a valid comment, but let me give some concerns about it, okay? Number one, anytime that you're giving somebody comb, it can fall under regulation. Here in Illinois, I can't give you one of my combs if it's crossing a county line. It has to be inspected first and by the Department of Ag, even if I just want to give you one and you're not buying one. If I just say, hey, I'll give you a frame of eggs or something, I can't cross county line with a frame, a comb. And so be sure that, and the purpose and the reason is just simply keep diseases down. That's all it is. And it's not anything like Big Brother taking over and telling you what you can or can't do. It's just trying to help everybody keep healthier bees. So in that case, it's sometimes hard to find people that are also willing to give you a frame of comb. And you're right, though, it does help if you can have one. And it also is good if you have drawn comb available from last year's hives that you can kind of spread out in your new hives and your new packages. That would help a lot. Now, here's another comment. Great question, and I just have to answer it on my video here. I mean, this is a whole video in itself right here. Hey, David, great video. I just ordered my first nuke for late March, picking it up here in southern Louisiana. Is there any strategy to placing the nuke frames in the new hive box? For example, would you place the 5 nuke frames in the center and 2 or 3 undrawn frames on each side, or place the brood frames in the middle and then an undrawn frame on each side of that? Then the resource frames, and then finish off with new undrawn frames at the outside of the hive body. My thinking is that by adding fresh frames between the brood and resources, it might be easier to keep the brood area centered and compact. If there's no hard and fast rule on this, I may do one hive each way and see what happens. So that's a good question. You get a 5-frame nucleus. You got five frames, 4, 5. I'll get this math right eventually, but 5 frames, and you're looking at maybe putting some undrawn frames between them, or just keep them all together. I personally like to keep the 5 frames together. That's a brood nest area. Now, I know about checkerboarding when you kind of intermix these undrawn frames or some drawn comb in between the brood area to kind of spread it out a little bit. I understand that. But that's kind of more like a really strong hive that you're trying to keep them from swarming and spreading them out a little bit. And maybe that's more in the later spring or early summer. But in the case of a nuke that you're getting pretty early, getting them started as a new colony, I just kind of hate to open up the brood nest area by giving them a blank frame between those 5 frames that they already have established. They're going to continue to spread out more. If I were to add extra frames that are not drawn out yet to the 5 frames, I would only do it on the very outside edges. I wouldn't want to disturb maybe the 2 or 3 frames in the direct center where most of the brood is, because there's a lot of nurse bee activity in that brood area. The brood is all clustered there, keeping the brood warm and everything, and it still has maybe some cold spells in the spring. So I kind of want to keep my brood area warm, if that makes sense. I would say that you could do both and probably have very similar results. The bees may draw the comb out very quickly. Good thing to do, just go ahead and try both, see what happens. Got nukes last year. This year, I'll get packages if I need bees. Not sure what happened. Maybe it sounds like you want to save some money, or maybe the nukes didn't go as well for you or something. But maybe you just want to compare and see which one does better. Listen to this comment. I picked up a package in late March. It was too cold to leave them in my truck bed, so I put them in the cab with me. There were about 40 or 50 bees on the outside of the package. Yeah, that always happens. I turned off the heat, but it was still warm in the cab. The bees came to life and flew around the cab. They didn't bother me, but the car that came alongside of me freaked out and almost ran off the road. The only problem I had was that they must have not pooped for a while, and I had to wipe down the inside of my new truck, bee poop all over. Oh boy, that's hard to get off. If you have no fear of bees, and I don't, they usually won't bother you. Or it could have been the music I was singing to. Oh, I want to respond to this comment. But if you transport bees and they're inside the vehicle with you, like in the back seat or the back of your truck or something, that is the best place for them. If you put them back in the back bed of the truck where the sun's hitting them or the rain's hitting them or the hard wind is hitting them and you're traveling a long way, that can really be hard on your packages. So if they're inside the vehicle with you and this is your first time to keep bees and you're scared to death of bees, then there's a lot of things you can do. Don't put them in a plastic garbage bag. They'll suffocate. They'll get too hot. Don't throw blankets over them. They'll get too hot. You've got to let them get air. They need air. Now they do make a lot of netting material that you can buy at bee companies, and it looks like kind of like a cloth bag, but it's a netting bag that you can put around your nuke or your package, and that keeps, if any bees are out, then it keeps the bees from getting out in your car. Usually what happens is when you're in a big bee operation, if you're here picking up our packages, for example, we have a lot of bees in the air. And those bees are landing on the outside of the package, wanting to get inside. A lot of people think the bees on the outside escaped and now they're all coming out, but it's not that. They're wanting to get in is why they're on the outside, stragglers. But here's the thing. Be careful. Now you can kind of cowboy up and drive along down the interstate with bees released on the inside of your car windshield, walking across your dash. If you want to cowboy up and be tough, I understand that. At the same time, you may not be able to drive safely if you start freaking out over bees that are crawling up your pants leg or down your shirt or on your face or something. So you really want to take precautions for that not to be an issue. So make sure all the bees are brushed off the packages by the provider before they put them in your car. And if some do get out, off the package or something, and they are flying around your car, they will go to the windshield, the window, and you just simply roll down the window and let them find a new home as you speed down the highway. But yeah, you got to be safe about that. This comment says, my first year I did one of each. This way I was able to learn from each. That would be interesting. To leave a comment more about what you learned. I'd like to know. It'd be interesting. I've done the side-by-side comparison many times myself. And again, like I said, it's a coin toss. They both can go either direction. Based on my management styles, my attention that I give to the package or the nucleus, it can go either way for me. Here's a comment that says, no comparison. 5-frame nuke wins, I guess. So, that's the answer in some people's mind. Always start with a 5-frame nuke. And I've kind of kicked that around sometimes. Should I continue to sell packages or should I start just mainly focusing on selling nucleuses? I understand, and right now we're doing both. And most people, I would say the majority of people, well, our nucleuses always sell out, so I don't know how many we could sell. And our packages are a big winner for sure. This commenter says, Nuke, you have drawn comb and resources to start. Also, you do not have to tamper with the queen. Yeah, that's true too. I mentioned that in my video that I made where I said you don't have to kind of take the cap off the queen cage. You don't have to worry about them releasing her. Here's the thing on packages. There's kind of a skill and an art to installing a package in cold weather too, because the bees are going to take maybe a day or two to get the queen out of her cage. They're going to take longer the colder it is. And so I think that placing the queen cage strategically, like about 2 inches down from the top bar of the frame in the center where you've dumped your bees is the best. And I think your candy should face sideways or up. And that way if she has attendants in there, they fall out of the way and she can more easily or quickly walk out. Now I've installed my queen cages facing down for well over a decade or 2 decades, I don't know, and I've never had issues with that. But I did a study, I think last summer or the summer before, I did a specific study on which works better and videotaped it. So, you know, video doesn't lie. Sideways or pointing up always did better. So that's what I prefer to do now. You're getting information hot off the press right now that we're going to have a giveaway for all of you tonight. We're going to make one of our products available for free tonight. So watch the live stream so you can get it. It's a small window, a 30-minute window of time, and you'll know which item it is if you join the live stream tonight. So join me on the live stream. I'm going to be talking about some winter management again tonight. It's going to be tonight or Thursday night, 7 p.m. Central Time. That's going to be 8 o'clock Eastern Time, 7 o'clock Central, and that'll be 6 o'clock Mountain, 5 o'clock Pacific Time. So I would love for you to join me. We're going to answer a lot of questions and have a fun time at the live stream tonight, but you want to be a part of this free giveaway. Now, if you haven't watched the video that I made yet, whether a package is better or a 5-frame nuke is better, watch the video right here. I'll see you guys over there.